Hey, we want to thank everybody for tuning in to another episode of You and the Law Podcast Show. I'm one of the co-hosts of the show, Virgil Green, and as always, the bearded guy that sits over there to my right goes by the name of Chief Swaggy One. How you
Hey,
doing?
brother, hey, brother, what I tell you about this? You being the host, the co, the I'm the host, bro. I done told you about this several
What?
times. And if you keep forgetting, man, I'm gonna go on strike, man, and I'm going to demand more money.
You gonna demand? So, all right, go ahead. Just,
I'm
just go
just
right
telling you.
ahead. Yeah. Okay.
I'm
Okay.
just telling you, brother. I mean, just telling you the way it's gonna be.
So, should you want to do the intro again?
No, go ahead, bro. You done already done it, man. You done already spoiled the moment, man. So just go ahead on
I
and
didn't, I didn't, I didn't spoil your moment. Well, hey, you know what, man? I do not want to spoil Chief Swaggy One's moment.
man,
I don't want to take anything away from you, man, because man, you got people following you from all over the world.
man, go ahead, man. Go on and do what you're gonna do, man. And let's
Hey,
get going, man.
hey, man, tonight we got another great topic, another informative topic, not a great topic, but unfortunately, it's a topic that needs to be talked about. That we're going to be talking about with our listeners. And tonight is, what are the real warning signs before a mass shooting? And Keith, the mass shooting that took place in Virginia, just another sign of there's still a lot has to be done to prevent mass shootings. And throughout the podcast tonight, we're going to be talking about the warning signs and are people ignoring those warning signs?
We just had one also, I believe, in Colorado. That's the second LGBTQ
Yeah.
club in the last, I want to say, 4 years that a mass shooting occurred. So, if you're asking me, are there warning signs? Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was reading about the first reported mass shooting uh, in the United States. Now we know there were more before then, but I said the one on record was in 1949 that happened in New Jersey, and this it all started because this guy was upset about his neighbors. As a matter of fact, he was actually the night before he actually did this mass shooting. He had actually uh, contemplated, and planned to do this at a movie theater. And basically, what happened, he got stuck in traffic, and it delayed his plan, or it threw him off his, what he had planned to do. And so the next day, man, he ended up killing 13 people, um, and he was injured in a shootout with police. So, were there some signs when you read the article? There were signs there. The fact that he was into it with his neighbors. If I make no mistake, he had threatened harm to his neighbors before. There were some signs of mental illness. There were some signs of withdrawal. So there were signs there, and you know, no one reported it, or did no one ever took him serious. So don't know, but that's the first reported on record mass shooting in the United States,
United
which
States.
means more than four people. But we know there's been more before then, but this was reported.
Yeah. Well, hey Keith, I got a short news clip I want to play that's going to give some context to our topic tonight.
Walmart supervisor who fatally shot 6 coworkers at a store in Virginia bought the gun just hours before the killings and left a note on his phone accusing colleagues of mocking him. That information released Friday by investigators. Quote, "Sorry everyone, but I did not plan this. I promise things just fell in place like I was led by Satan." Police said the handgun used in Tuesday night's shooting was legally purchased that morning and that Bing had no criminal record. That suspect is identified as Andre Bing. Police released a copy of the note found on his phone that appeared to redact the names of people that he was mentioning. It's not clear when the note was written, but in it, Bing claimed he was harassed and said that he was pushed to the brink by a perception that his phone was hacked. I do want to bring in Fox 5 New York's Lizette Nunez to talk about the latest on that shooting. There is a lot to this, and obviously new information pretty much released on a daily basis at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. The Chesapeake Police Department has been pretty good and have been revealing those new details. And like you mentioned, the note is something that revealing new details on what possibly may have motivated this individual to carry out this attack. So in that note, he does appear to say that there was maybe possibly strained relationships with some of the coworkers that he was working with. He also mentioned that I think a colleague may have referred to him as Jeffrey Dahmer, which is obviously not good. In it also, he says that he was motivated by Satan. So that very revealing of what could have, led to this attack. But once again, Chesapeake Police, releasing those latest details. And I also want to get into a report that I did earlier this week, and then we also heard from some of those victims as well.
And my manager turned around and he just opened fire on everybody in the break room. I literally watched bodies drop.
An employee at a Walmart in Chesapeake, Virginia, describing the horrific moments as the shooting rampage unfolded inside the store. Police identified the gunman as 31-year-old Andre Bing, an overnight team leader who was with the company for 12 years. Investigators say Bing had called a meeting in the break room. As his team members gathered, that's when Bing allegedly opened fire at his co-workers. Some of the victims died in the break room. Another was found by the front door.
I can't believe somebody would have that much viciousness in their heart to shoot everybody like that.
A total of 7 people are dead, including Bing, who turned the gun on himself. Investigators got to the scene in minutes. By the time they were there, Bing was already dead and had a self-inflicted wound. Detectives say he was armed with a pistol and had multiple magazines. Police releasing the identities of the victims. The youngest, a 16-year-old. A small makeshift memorial continues to grow at the store's parking lot in honor of the victims.
It is by the grace of God that a bullet missed me.
A vehicle of interest was taped off at the parking lot. The FBI also searched the suspect's home for any clues on what led up to the shooting.
Yeah, so the question now relates to that 16-year-old. We do know that he has now been identified as well. In your story there, you did have the other 5 victims, but now we know the identity of that 16-year-old as well.
Yeah, so officials putting out his name now. His name is Fernando Chavez Baron, a 16-year-old. From reports we've been hearing that he actually just started working there recently, received his first paycheck. And I believe one outlet reporting that with his first paycheck, he actually ended up buying his mother a pair of AirPods. So we are continuing to learn more about these victims, what possibly the relationship was with the shooter. But unfortunately, very, very sad learning, especially the youngest, 16 years old, probably his first jobs, just started working. And obviously this all happening during the holidays, a time where people are supposed to be gathered and be happy. And unfortunately, these families are now planning the funerals of all of these individuals.
For sure. And at this point, that motive does still remain under investigation. We know the death note that police did release talks about him being harassed, his phone possibly being hacked. But at this point, no specific motive has been released. So there is so much left to figure out here.
Yeah, still very much an ongoing investigation. I think that note was revealing, but it's still not clear what exactly the motive was. We have heard from some of the employees that did survive that, there was some odd behaviors that they would notice from the manager, but once again, still not really clear what motivated this attack.
For sure. Well, Fox 5 New York's Lizette Nunez, as always, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Josh.
Hey, Keith, we're back. Tonight we're talking about, the warning signs, the real warning signs related to mass shootings. And, Keith, in that clip, there was obviously this person left behind some information related to some things that took place in the workplace with how he had been treated, and uh, that shouldn't lead to people going in and killing up their coworkers. But Keith, I guess my main question to you and to the listeners, and we want our listeners to definitely chat in on this conversation because, all of us play a significant role in ensuring that we can prevent these things from happening. Do you think we become a society where we're just so complacent with things and that's not my business, so I'm not going to say anything?
Virgil, let me just give some stats. From 1982 to 2011, there was a mass shooting every 200 days. So that basically saying one every year and a half. One every year and a half, or at least 1.5 a year. Since 2018, there has been an average of 10 mass shootings a week. Now, to define what a mass shooting is, the FBI has identified it as when 4 or more people are shot. So we know there's a lot of the incidents that occur throughout the nation where 4 or more people are shot. So, but, in cities throughout the nation. But when you have a situation where you have a group of individuals, as many as, let's go back to the Pulse nightclub, 49 people. Let's go back to Buffalo, in the teens. And let's go back to this incident where 7 were killed, but many more were shot. And, it goes to show you that we are becoming a nation of, we are retaining our reputation as being a nation of violence. And the thing that really gets me is that a lot of these situations, I believe, I don't want to say necessarily preventable, but there are signs, telltale signs that something's going to happen. People used to laugh at the term going postal. That's not funny anymore.
No,
it's never been funny. But when you think about a 16-year-old kid that all he wanted to do was make money to do something really nice for his mom, and a 16-year-old kid was killed by someone. Then think about this. This person said, from his manifest, that he felt that people were talking about him and had mistreated him. There's no way you can make me believe that 16-year-old baby was involved in that. And it's not even clear if any of the individuals that were in that break room were involved in any of the things that he had said in his manifesto. So it's amazing that this continues to happen. And the last 2 or 3 shootings, if I make no mistake, the weapons have been bought legally.
And the day of the incidents. And so Keith,
and the thing about, I'm sorry, go ahead, Virgil. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I'm just going to add to the information that you just shared with us and the listeners that the number of mass shootings this year alone, Keith, and this is a staggering number. 600 mass shootings just this year, and so people, and I think people. We're so caught up in everything else that's going on, but 600 mass shootings. And so, we continue to see these numbers increase every single year. And everybody has the right to go and purchase a weapon. But I think in the state of Virginia, there's not a waiting period so you can go in and have the money and buy a gun and walk out as long as you pass the background.
Virgil, check this out. 198 mass shootings in the first 19 weeks of 2022. That is just unbelievable. That we're suffering from this type of violence in the nation.
It's an epidemic.
As law enforcement officers, we know that there are going to be acts of violence, including shootings, and unfortunately, there's going to be death. But when you really think about this, you're talking. I mean, that's 10 to 11 shootings a week throughout the nation of more than four people or more. This guy, you can't make me believe that there were no signs. You cannot make me believe. And I really would like to dig into his history to see what his it had been like at work for him and for coworkers, and also for customers. There had to be some telltale
That's
signs
fine.
that
Well,
this guy was having some issues.
yeah. Well, and I'll say this, Keith, and I think this just goes back to even in the workplace. You've got managers, supervisors. I mean, I think this guy was an overnight supervisor at Walmart. You've got people who should notice these things, who, and I can't say that, maybe they ignored some things, but with the things that this guy has shared that's been released, there had to have been some signs for somebody to pick up on. And I'll say this, Keith, and I think this is a much larger, much broader conversation to have. What responsibilities does the workplace, such as a Walmart or a Target, have to say, here is information to our staff, our associates, our employees. These are warning signs of a potential mass shooter. These are warning signs of this situation. Because
Well,
Keith, if we have conversations about telling people, hey, you need to shelter in place in a tornado, there's signs about that. Why not come up with something where your employees can see and read, and this is going to help them under when they do see something to say something.
well, Virgil, I can tell you why, man. In corporations like Walmart and other corporations, there are um, awareness programs and early intervention programs and employee assistance programs. The problem is that a lot of employees don't trust the system. They don't trust the system. I think there are those systems in place just to have one, just to say we have one.
Yeah.
I want you to kind of think about this. Daily, there are individuals who go and complain about what's going on in their jobs. And depending on who your human resource person is, depending on who your advocate is, plays a role in whether or not this person is taken seriously. The person who comes and complains. If you have someone that says, well, that's just that individual, or you're just complaining, or we'll look into it, and they never do, what happens is that employees become frustrated. Not to the point, some not to the point of what this person did, but some to the point of resigning, some to the point of um, uh, outcries to where it may lead to their termination, some that end up having mental breakdowns because people don't pay attention to their outcries. And so
Yeah.
I will tell you that there have been more programs put in place in organizations, but I will tell you just by firsthand knowledge, there are programs in place that people don't trust, programs in place that people don't trust the person running the program, and programs in place that they're there just to say you have one. So it sounds good. It sounds sexy to say I have an employee assistance program.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, man, I don't think people realize how much time some people spend at their jobs. I mean, there's 24 hours in a day, and you have some people that spend more than 40 to 50 to 60% of their 24 hours at work.
Yeah.
That's
And
a lot of time.
it's a lot of time. And that's a lot of time, and it's also a lot of time to get to know the people that you're working with, and for you to be able to pick up on some signs that that are not normal. And I think, again, I think this whole conversation is about the warning signs, and what do you need to, how can you prevent? You may not be able to stop it, but you may be able to prevent it from happening. And that prevention is saying something to a supervisor, and if that supervisor doesn't take it serious, go outside of the workplace, contact your local law enforcement and say, hey, something isn't right with this individual, and let that agency investigate it to determine, well, you know, there's nothing there, or yes, there is something there. Because as you see, Keith, in so many mass shootings, people leave a paper trail, a digital paper trail on social media about some things that they're dealing with. And people know that.
Well, Virgil, let me say this. It goes back to, there are always signs, no matter what. When you go back and you think about it, and you've seen the news stories and the documentaries and things, the first thing people say is there were signs. You know, this person became isolated, or this person became disgruntled, or this person started not showing up for work, or picking fights, or things like that, or acting different. There's always those signs. What I have found in doing research on this and talking to individuals who are experts in this area is that people don't take people seriously, and it's not my responsibility to report this. He's not my child. He's not my relative. He's not my friend. They're not going to do anything. They're just talking. And so I think that when you look at these situations, a lot of times people do not take these signs seriously. They just believe people are talking. And Virgil, that's why I've always said, you never know what a person's going through. And so you cannot continue, and not in these situations, because I don't know if this happened or not, but I am aware of situations where people just continue to picket people, and you never know where a person's emotional level is. But in this situation, there was nothing that justified the killing of any of these mass shootings, any shooting whatsoever, unless it's self-defense. It doesn't justify people losing their lives, or people being injured. It doesn't justify that. And there are signs, and I think we've identified, I think, Virgil, 8 signs that.
Yeah, there's 8 signs. Yeah,
8 signs that people, and we'll put that up here shortly.
Yeah.
But I think the telltale signs are there. I do believe that some of the programs, Virgil, that people have in place, organizations have in place, are just for show, because your EAP is just as good, only as good as the person who runs the program.
Yeah. Hey, Keith, I want to get to a couple of comments in the chat room, because we've got people that are listening to us on our YouTube channel as well as our Facebook podcast platforms. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this informative topic tonight. But Nikki, one of her comments is, she says the employer is limited unless an employee is practically holding a knife or gun. Employers are not mental health officials. Awareness programs go to stress signals, but the employer would have a different set of liability issues if an employer misidentifies someone as dangerous. Then she goes on to say that there are signs, and the employer can and maybe should solicit a mental health profession. She says, but that is tricky as well. And then Pam, her comment is in the chat room is that in general, there's typically someone on every job who is considered a little off or a little weird. Or then I guess her question is, are there base level signs that clearly give off red flags?
Hey, let me say something about what Nikki and Pam said. Absolutely right. I think they are, and I think you have to be really careful regarding the liability aspect. But as supervisors and coworkers, we have an obligation to get to know the people who we work with. And one of the things that I've seen is in supervisors, there is a lack of willingness to actually sit down and talk with your employee. The only time I found that supervisors, especially in law enforcement, actually sit down, and retail too, any of the professions for the most part, is when there's an evaluation period. And so then when the evaluation period comes up, then, you know, you're sitting down talking to this person, and either you're telling them everything they're not doing right, or you're telling them what they're doing wrong, you know, what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. You're just kind of dumping on this person instead of talking to this person throughout the evaluation period to just kind of get to know them. Because if you get to know a person, if you talk, that's why you think there's an early intervention program. Yeah. It requires supervisors to talk to individuals, the people who we work for, to get to know them. It can break the ice. I'm not saying it's 100% method of breaking the ice, but it can break the ice to where you can say, okay, this person, blah, 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 blah. I'm finding out that this person has some personal issues. This person doesn't get along with this person at work. What can we do? That's where we drop the ball in getting to know our employees. And then sometimes supervisors don't know what resources to provide. They don't know. They don't know how to do it. And some won't, you know. So I think we do have an obligation to identify and notice changes in people. I do. Yeah. I really do.
Yeah, I believe so. Hey, Keith, I got another video clip, news clip to show in regards to our topic tonight. And again, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to tune in and be a part of this conversation about, you know, what are the early warning signs to prevent mass shootings?
Ike Ejiochi joins us now live from Chesapeake, Virginia. We've also got ABC News senior investigative reporter Aaron Katersky and ABC News contributor, former police chief for San Bernardino, California, Jared Bergwan. Ike, first, what are we learning about the victims in this case and how the community is responding?
Well, right now, this community is wrapping their hands around everybody they could. Just for the past few hours that we've seen here, we've seen a lot of people just really trickle into this Walmart, some with signs saying, if you need a prayer, if you need a hug, I'm right here. Others just gathering, simply giving people an embrace. But in terms of the people who are actually directly affected of this, we do have a little bit of new information. Now, one of the family members of one of the individuals who were in fact hurt, they came here about a couple of hours ago, and they told me that their family member, their brother, their uncle, was in that hospital in stable condition, however, still severely injured with a long way to go. As far as the 7 people who were killed, Walmart and law enforcement telling us that 3 of those individuals, including the shooter, were found dead inside that break room where this entire ordeal began. Another victim was found near the entrance of the store, and the last 3 victims who passed away, well, they were taken to the hospital where they later died. As far as the witnesses, I've been managed to speak to several witnesses who saw this carnage. One in particular, Kevin Harper, he was an individual who was actually inside that break room moments before the shooting rang out. He told me that he just had some kind of premonition, some kind of feeling that told him to get out of that break room. And it wasn't just a few moments later, he heard those muffled gunshots ringing out from that break room. He told me that at that point, he made a beeline straight for the clothes hanger where he can hide. And I asked him, how long did he hide inside that clothes hanger? He told me he had no idea because time felt it stopped. But after a while, he managed to get out of there, run out of the store, and he told me that on his way out of the store, he did, in fact, see some bodies, some covered completely in blood. Again, a lot of the witnesses who I say, they say this incident shocked them to the core, but they're not surprised given the frequency in which these shootings are happening in our country right now.
No question about that, Ike. Just a terrible day for them in particular, for our country, this shame, this stigma on our country, this gun violence. Aaron, investigators have identified the shooter, 31-year-old Andre Bing. What else can you tell us about where the investigation stands at this point?
They know that Andre Bing has worked for Walmart since 2010. He was an associate for the company and the supervisor of the overnight shift, which was just beginning after 10 p.m. when he burst into this break room and opened fire seemingly at random, according to eyewitnesses. Police haven't said much more about him, but Terry, workplace violence, or in Colorado, hate, where Chief Bergwan was in San Bernardino, may have been extremism. At this point, what's the difference? There's easy access to guns, and increasingly in this country, people who may be angry or who may have something going on inside them are turning to violence, and particularly gun violence, in order to cope with it. And that's the newest challenge for law enforcement in the country, Terry. It's happening over and over again.
It does seem, Aaron, that's very astute, that there's almost a self-medication for a broken and twisted mind to start shooting at people. And Jared, I just want to, according to the Gun Violence Archive, there have been at least 606 mass shootings this year. And I want to ask you, do you think it's gotten worse since you were chief in San Bernardino and had to go through that awful shooting there?
I think it has gotten worse, and worse for a variety of reasons. I made an observation to myself earlier today in preparation for this. You know, when Columbine happened, we were shocked. We were collectively shocked. And on the law enforcement side, we gave Columbine a lot of leeway for the response because nobody had ever experienced something like that before. And then fast forward to Uvalde, where we were very angry about the response in Uvalde. We were angry because we know better by now. The reality is, and fast forward to today, is I don't know that anybody in this law enforcement profession doesn't know somebody, 1 or 2 degrees of separation, another officer, somebody that works for a neighboring agency, somebody that they went to the academy with, that hasn't had to deal personally with one of these types of events. And you're absolutely right. It is an embarrassing thing for this country to deal with.
It really is. We just can't seem to get on top of it. Ike, ABC News has spoken to Breonna Tyler, a woman who worked for the...
You know, Keith, I wanted to play that because I think it puts a little bit more context into what information has come out about this shooter. Also, you know, we've already talked about, I said 600 mass shootings. I think, 606 mass shootings so far in 2022. But one of the things that stood out is the reporter's comments about, the easy access to weapons and the fact that why does it take a weapon to be utilized to be used to kill people? What is in a person's mind to decide, hey, I'm gonna get up before I go to work, I'm gonna go and buy a weapon because when I go in tonight, I'm gonna kill as many people as I can, or I may target certain people. Because one of the things that I've heard while preparing for the show is that there were certain people that he spared. He could have killed them, but he didn't. And so this individual had some specific people that he was set out to kill, and maybe like the 16-year-old wasn't intended, but there again, when you start shooting bullets, some have a target and some of them don't, Keith.
Well, Virgil, let me say this. I think when a person gets to that point, it's maybe now you hear me, maybe now you see me.
It's too late. Yeah.
Yeah. So you hadn't been listening to me. Now, do you hear me now? And whenever you have a
Keith,
child,
let me ask you a question. When you make that comment and say, "Do you hear me now?" Out of all of the mass shootings that we've happened, especially in the workplace, do you think that the corporate world or that industry has taken it very serious to say we're going to put some things in place that's going to prevent somebody who works for us coming into the workplace with a weapon?
Let me say this, Virgil. I think I said it earlier. I believe there has been an uptick in development of employee assistance programs. But think about this, Virgil. If you're seeing the environment of an organization is for people to be bullied, to be threatened, and that no one takes their outcry seriously, why would you take the program that the company has facilitated? Why would you take it seriously? If you understand what I'm saying. So my thing is, Yeah, I think the programs, and I think corporations, and I think throughout America, organizations have established employee assistance programs. But I will tell you, in the organizations that I have been involved in, employees do not trust the programs or the system. They don't trust the confidentiality. They don't trust the fact that the programs are effective. And so if you have an organization that your employees do not trust, they feel that their complaints are falling to deaf ears. Okay, then why should I go to a program and tell my all? When in between 2008, Virgil, and 2017, 18, this country saw the largest prescription numbers written for depression, medication for depression and anxiety. That's a fact. Companies have said that their insurance companies saw a mass increase in that. So if that's not a sign that something's wrong,
something is going on. Yeah.
And we're not talking about the depression. We're not talking about the anxiety. We're talking about this. Apparently, this guy either was just evil or he had some form of advanced mental illness, whether it was paranoia, schizophrenia, or whatever. Don't know. Not a psychiatrist, not a mental health professional. Can't diagnose it. But there was something there, the anger, because when I believe when a person does this, they're at the point where they want to shock people to its core. And Nikki said that it's not an employer's job to serve as mental health professionals. No, it's not, but it's an employer's ability to provide resources. And it's also an employer's responsibility, especially supervisors, to get to know their subordinates or the people who work for them, so that they can see, maybe be able to notice these telltale signs. That's all I'm saying.
Well, Keith, and I'm gonna say this, and Nikki, I mean, she makes some good points, but I think we're past this conversation of saying that it's not the employer's responsibility. It's not their job. When you employ people, certain people go through background checks, certain people go through background investigations or whatever. I think we're at a point where things that typically have not happened in the past need to happen. Now, people will say there's some liability with that. Okay, well, guess what? Walmart is going to be sued. That's why they got insurance from these 6 family members who were killed. So why not put in place? And Keith, you mentioned about employee assistance programs. People only utilize a very small percentage of people utilize employee assistance programs. Very small,
very minute. Virgil, let me say this too.
But I think there is some responsibility that employers need to take upon themselves, especially large corporations such as a Walmart, as a Target, or a Best Buy, who have who employ a lot of people, where there's a potential for some type of a workplace violence.
So
even Amazon.
If you're an employer, okay, whether you're a large employer like Amazon or whomever, you're all in. You should be all in when you have employees. All in means, talking to your employees, getting to know your employees. There are organizations out there, man, that just really believe that an employee's purpose is to get the job done. They're not talking, and it goes back to it's that type X, theory X form of management. You have to, in order, the main focus is to get the job done. The main focus is to keep people's nose to the ground, or grinding stone. The main purpose is to get what you can out of people. And when you do that, people will work. Well, when you do that, what you're showing people is that you really don't care. Now, am I saying that anytime you see something as a supervisor and you address it, it's going to be perfect. It's going to end with it's going to have a happy ending. Absolutely not. But I do believe that you have an obligation as a supervisor to talk to people throughout the year instead of waiting until the day that you sit down and you have an evaluation and then you dump all this information on them. You know, it's good to tell somebody about an early intervention program at the beginning of their program. You don't wait until somebody else that you know has a problem and then, oh, we have an early intervention program. And then the people that you have in place in the early intervention program is key to the success of the program. Because if you don't have the right person in persons in that program, Virgil,
it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. And I'm telling you, we don't know if this guy had talked to anybody. We don't know. We don't know if he's spoken with his minister. We don't know if he spoke with his family. We don't know. But I'm going to tell you this. There's no way you can make me believe that there were no signs there. And I guarantee you there was something said, something done, something that, and I guarantee you what was said was, oh, don't worry about it. That's just the way he is. He's been working here for 12 years. He's like that with everybody. Well, you know what, Virgil, I'm sorry, but that's a damn problem if you're telling somebody that that's just the way somebody is and just deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it is. So now you go and tell that 16-year-old baby's mama that, oh, we're sorry this happened or whatever. But I'm telling you, I hope that it's revealed. I hope it's revealed that there was some additional issues there. But you cannot, you know, Nikki says you're forgetting that not all of employers are Walmart size. And I get it.
Well,
I know what she's saying.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
But you're telling me that if you have a business and that people are working for you, delivering a service, and that people are delivering that service that are making that owner money, that owner does, those employees do not deserve some type of out. And everybody can't afford medical insurance. We know that. Every employer can't provide medical insurance, but you can't tell me that you can't. There's resources out there, man. There's free resources out there that people can utilize and you can direct your people to. So I get it. Everybody can't afford medical insurance that allows for the treatment of mental illness or counseling or whatever. But there's programs out there, man. There's free programs out there. So when you ask me, are there signs? Yeah, I believe there's signs. All the time, I think 90-some% of them. Think about all the incidents that have occurred in Uvalde, Colorado, Virginia. I know I'm missing some. Columbine, Parkland,
Sandy Hook.
What? Las Vegas. The common denominator was these individuals had some form of problem, some form of mental illness, something set them off. And everybody that they've spoken with related to these individuals had said, we noticed a change.
Exactly. And I think that's the main thing.
Situations, not any of those situations. Was there any of those situations where somebody didn't say, we noticed a change and there was something there?
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, I'm going to go back to what Nikki said. Obviously, you know, she has a small business. And you know, this country is ran by a lot of small businesses. And I think the smaller your business is, Keith, and Nikki, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You should have a real close relationship with your employees. You should know them and they should know you. And that's where you have a small group who can say, yeah, you know, something is wrong with Tom over here because he made some comments about some things. But I'm also going to go back to keeping things visual, Keith. If you put something in front of your employees that they can read, that they can see, people are real visual. They can read these comments and say, okay, number 7, that's a sign he or she did something. I need to pay a closer attention to that. So the more you raise awareness to something, the more you can help prevent something. This isn't to say, well, hey, I can't do it because I'm a small business. You should have perfect opportunity to do that as a small business owner.
Well, you can't make people, and she's right, you can't make people participate, but you can sure have the program or resources available to them where when they're there, because you don't know what a person's going through. You don't.
Yeah, you don't.
Yeah, we know that, the amount of money I pay for medical insurance monthly and what you pay, we know it's not cheap, and what organizations have to pay as a whole. But there's faith-based programs out there for any denomination. There's private programs. There are universities that have social work and counseling programs that will assist and provide. They have interns and stuff that will provide. So there are programs out there. You have to know what to look. And if you're not a receptive employer, your people are not going to trust you, and they're not going to trust the system. That's just facts. That's not make believe. That's just facts, man. You know yourself, Virgil, coming in the law enforcement background, we don't trust anybody anyway. But how many, I can tell you right now, the organization we've had peer support programs.
Mm-hmm.
And peer support versus EAP, employment assistance program, they will tell you right off the bat, to hell with EAP. They won't deal with it.
Yeah.
And then they're kind of reluctant to deal now. Now then now you put this employee under the supervision of someone who has a bad reputation and doesn't care, and basically tell people, man, just deal with it. That's life.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Now you're compiling the problem. So are these people hurting the individuals who are committing these? I don't know if it's based on somebody's hurting. I don't know if it's just because that's the kind of heart they have. I don't know, but I will tell you, over 600 mass shootings in the nation so far this year. That is crazy, man. That's just insane.
Well, and again, that's why tonight's topic is, what are the real warning signs before a mass shooting? When you have over 606 mass shootings, and we're almost at the end of the year, hopefully there's not any other mass shootings between now and the end of December. But that lets you know we're not doing, as a whole, we're not doing some things right. We need to do some things that prevent some things. And everybody, Keith, we mentioned this on other podcast shows. Every time there's a mass shooting at a church or a school, our politicians come out and say our thoughts and prayers are with the family. People don't want to hear about your thoughts and prayers. Some may be sincere, some may not be sincere. People want to know, what can we do to prevent things from happening? When you go to church, you should feel safe. When you go to school, you should feel safe. When you go to work, you should feel safe. You've got people who may be going through some kind of domestic violence situation at home. Their husband or their significant other may come to their workplace and shoot and kill them. I mean, you dealt with something like that in Norman, where an individual came to a workplace and shot his significant other. You just don't know, but when people listen to people's conversation and engage with them and say, hey, maybe we need to talk to somebody. And again, Keith, I think we just we do a lot of talking after the fact, but we don't do any talking before.
Well, because it's not our business. It's not, that's somebody else's problem. Yeah. But man, it's gotten to the point, Virgil, that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when one of these situations will occur. And just face the fact, man, we're not going to prevent it. That's just fact. We can reduce it. We can reduce the probability of something happening, because not the possibility, but the probability. The thing it's not even a weapon thing anymore. We know that we're not going to stop selling weapons. We know that. So let's take that completely off the table. That's not going to even happen. We got to deal with that. We got to deal with the fact that weapons are here in the United States. They're sold. People love weapons. The Second Amendment is alive. But then
Not going anywhere.
Yeah, right. So now what's our contingency plan? And that's what we've got to focus on, our contingency plan.
Yeah. Well, and Keith, I want to get up to a comment that Pam made in the chat is that, she worked at a university in Oklahoma where they were required yearly trainings that included workplace safety. And also that there are ways to mandate workplace safety trainings, and they will become the norm for the culture of that organization. I think one of the things, that's a good point Pam made. I think when you make things repetitive over and over again, it's not, people have a tendency to pay more attention. If you do something occasionally, or you do something that somebody, the office managers say, well, we haven't done this in a while. We need to be in compliance with this here. So we got to do this training. They may not do another training for another 2 or 3 years. So I think the more corporations, the more, whether it be a university or whether it be a large corporation or even a small business, the main thing in this conversation, Keith, is, and Nikki is a small business owner, and to all those others who are, safety. It's all about safety. How do you protect your employees, and how do you protect those people who come into your business?
Let me say this. So yeah, the annual training is good, absolutely. But let me tell you that one of the things that I see, we've become a society of technology and social media and online training, which
not
I'm
real
not,
training. Yeah.
Right. Which I'm not opposed to because I understand it.
Yeah.
But I'm a firm believer you cannot teach workplace safety and signs of emotional distress. You cannot teach that online.
Correct.
I'm a firm, you cannot teach that online.
You cannot.
Let me tell you why. Because if you're telling me that I have to do this because this is what headquarters say that I have to do, I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna put my all into it. But when you have those face-to-face conversations and you can ask questions and then it rings a bell, man, I noticed that it's a lot more effective. But unfortunately, I know that doesn't work for everybody. But I think that's what's happened is you can only create a certain type of training, especially this type of training, when you start talking about online training. This is the type of training that should be done in person, where people can actually feel it and they can actually see it. I'm a firm believer of that.
Yeah. Well, hey, Keith, I want to remind everybody that tonight's topic is what are the real warning signs before a mass shooting? Because, we've had the mass shooting at the gay club in Colorado. We had the mass shooting just recently in Virginia at Walmart, and so many other mass shootings. We go back to the mass shooting in Buffalo, New York, where I think that person was just sentenced.
He pled guilty. Well, he won't be sentenced until February, but he pled guilty.
And so, again, I think this is another topic that we talk about on You and the Law podcast show, because this is about you and the law, and right. So and there again, it's important that this is a platform that either you can agree with us or disagree with us, but I think the whole goal of this is to make sure that we are talking about topics that's important into our communities, not just the Black and brown communities.
Well, we got to start taking mental illness and telltale signs seriously. We have to, Virgil. We have to start taking those. You have those warning signs, Virgil?
Keith, I was looking for them and I don't, but one of the things I couldn't put them up on, but let me go back and find what those 8 warning signs are.
Well, one is a sense of isolation. One is a sense of change in behavior. The other is, purchasing weapons. A person who's never purchased weapons, and the fixation with talking about your job or talking about hate or talking about a person, individual, or how they're being treated. Those are some of the signs that people not coming to work, not coming, for no reason. They're not sick, but they just don't show up.
Just don't show up.
And a lot of times people say, I'm going to get you, and we don't take that stuff seriously.
Well, hey, we got the last few minutes of the podcast, but here are these 8 warning signs. Number 1 is the pathway. The 2 is the fixation. 3 is identification. 4 is energy burst. 5 is leakage. 6 is directly communicated threat. 7, a novel aggression. And then 8, last resort.
When you say leakage, you're talking about these people are telling you they're giving hints.
Yeah, they're giving signs. Yeah,
they're giving signs of what they're going to do. It's a lot of it is very clear. Some of it's not. But I think we need to start asking questions when something doesn't seem right. We really do need to start doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, brother, it's been another great podcast, and we want to definitely thank everybody for tuning in and listening tonight. If you miss any parts of this broadcast, you can definitely go back and watch it on our YouTube channel, You and the Law Podcast Show. You can check us out on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcasts. And also listen to some of the previous shows. So, it's always good to get with you, brother, and have these conversations, old man.
Yeah. Thanks, Virgil. I just want to say something. Mental illness is not funny. Talks about threats are not funny. Not those outbursts and things like that are not funny. Those are the responsibility. When you see those things, we all have a responsibility to report them. We, and we can't worry about. I mean, there's ways to report it and remain,
anonymous.
Yeah. We got to take advantage of those when we see it, and it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of this investigation regarding what the behavior of this individual was before this tragedy.
Well, hey, Keith, I want to remind everybody, definitely tune in next Thursday at 6 p.m. For another informative topic on You and the Law Podcast Show. And we definitely thank everybody for tuning in.